Hello, I'm Bruce Bouch. I'm a retired Senior Deputy State Fire Marshal with Maryland, and I'm here today to talk to John Tennyson about PTSD.
Good afternoon. John Tennyson, retired Senior Deputy State Fire Marshal, retired December 1st of 2019.
A few questions I want to talk to you about today.
Sure.
I know PTSD is not something that, to be scoffed at, and there's a lot of people that probably have it and don't even realize it.
Very correct, yes.
So that's why we want to cover things today, and hopefully by the end of today's conversation, we might be able to help others.
Very well, yes.
So I'd like to start with what symptoms or experiences led you to seek help to begin with?
Well, originally I thought it was one specific incident on March 27th of 2018. It was a fatal fire investigation with 2 toddlers that were involved. Everything was fine during the fire investigation. We went together as a group to lunch after the fire investigation was complete. Went home. Later that evening, I was called out again to another fire. This was not a fatal, just an accidental garage fire. I handled the fire scene there, and driving home, the uncontrollable emotions hit me. I actually had to pull over on the side of the road and try to compose myself enough to drive home. And I don't know how long I sat there. It was quite some time. I was able to compose myself and drive home. Went to bed, and when my wife came home from work, she found me lying on the bathroom floor, overcome with emotions and vomiting. So it was a pretty severe reaction.
Wow, I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Thank you.
So you say you feel that was the main catalyst, but you may have experienced more. So
Yes.
It was more than a singular event. There's actually more than one event that caused all this?
Correct. Through therapy, which I went to an inpatient extensive therapy for PTSD, and also the alcohol abuse that accompanied the PTSD. And I learned that there were a lot of events from even when I was going back to 16 years old when I was a volunteer firefighter. Some of the tragic car accidents and stuff had really affected me, and I didn't know it until got to therapy and started bringing all these emotions back to the surface again. One of the very first calls I went on with the volunteer fire department was a fatal car accident where a dump truck had rolled over onto a pickup truck and trapped the driver inside. He was deceased. So it was a long extrication, and I still remember the smell of that scene because a fatal car crash has a distinct smell. If anyone in the volunteer service has been involved with that will know. So,
absolutely, and I can empathize with you because I've been
yes.
through some of those same
Yes.
scenarios. So, how long would you say these symptoms preceded this incident?
So
what did doctors say? Maybe?
the therapist said, have you thought about these events during your entire life? And the answer was yes. Many of the investigations I handled, which were fatalities, and a lot of the calls with the volunteer fire service that were fatalities had affected me, and I did think about them from time to time. And I should have known at that time that is a clue. That's a trigger that something is going on, and to seek some help. Go talk to someone, because nothing works better than talking to a professional to get these thoughts and emotions to the surface so they can deal with it.
Well, if I understand it to be a process, and it's,
Yes.
many of us don't recognize it.
It's still an ongoing process for me.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a service dog now that will awaken me if I have a nightmare. So he sleeps right by my head every night. He's also to go out in public with me if I'm in an uncomfortable situation. But I'm trying to wean myself off of that now and just use him for the nightmare portion of his care right now. So
excellent.
yeah.
So you feel that progress is going well for you?
I feel I'm doing much better every day, I think. So yes.
Excellent. Congratulations with that.
Thank you.
So where did you find help? I mean, was it a single resource or multiple resources that you took advantage of?
Well, it started with my wife finding me in the bathroom. She actually called my direct supervisor and notified him. And I think this is somewhere we can improve in the process, because I feel my direct supervisor, he was doing everything he could to help me, but I don't think he knew exactly which avenues to pursue and how to start the process. So to his credit, he did a fantastic job for being thrown into that environment, but I think better better supervisor training could actually enhance getting someone help a little bit faster.
Okay, and not only supervisor training, but everyone training.
Correct. Yes.
You know, so that the rest of us can, recognize that if we see that in
Yes.
someone. So that would be important. So I can definitely understand that.
And myself as well. I didn't really know how to ask for help. Like I said, my wife did that. So, and there's the stigma out there, the embarrassment. I was embarrassed as well that I was having this reaction. So I don't know what would have happened if my wife didn't initiate the process. So I'm glad she did. She's looking out for me. So.
Well, from what you mentioned earlier, you mentioned about alcohol, so that was
Yes.
basically a coping mechanism for you.
Well, I've always been a beer drinker. That was no secret, and it's no secret now. But after these incidents, it exploded to a point where it was severe. So I found this location in Texas called Warrior's Heart. They only treat military, firefighter, EMS personnel. So I asked to go to that facility. I was declined by Workman's Comp. So I contacted my own personal insurance, and they paid for me to go. So.
Okay. Well, it sounds like Workman's Comp needs to have a,
Yes.
a little bit more, better
Yes.
understanding too. So you're obviously hesitant to talk to someone. Is there any other deeper reason as to why, other than embarrassment?
The embarrassment. One thing that really affected me is how it affected my coworkers. My region was already shorthanded at the time, and me being out it affected their lives. It increased their workload. So that was another reason I was hesitant to say anything. I wanted to stay, in the working environment to help out, and it just got to the point where I could no longer do it. So.
And I actually remember that time frame
Yes.
from up in headquarters, and so I do remember that affecting the rest of the crew. But they did well. They
Yes.
managed to get through, and they pulled resources from other regions
Yes.
and made things happen. So
Yes.
that's what we do as a family.
Yes.
Did you understand the full scope of PTSD when you were first diagnosed?
Absolutely not. I knew nothing about it.
So it's been a big learning experience.
Absolutely, yes. And when I was contacted to assist with this program, I would jump at the chance to try to help someone else. So it's near and dear to my heart, and anything I can do to help, I would like to do. So.
What are some misconceptions you had about it?
So I'll be honest. When I first started my career, we talked about another deputy that had left for mental reasons from an incident, and I made fun of him as well. So karma came around to bite me in the butt. So it's that type of conception of PTSD that makes you hesitant to bring it forward.
You think of it as a weakness.
Absolutely, yes, yes.
But not anymore.
No, no.
It's real.
Yes.
How has your support network grown since your diagnosis?
Well, I went to the facility in Texas. Still in touch with some folks from the State Fire Marshal's office, checking on me from time to time.
Oh, that's good.
Yep. And I have a counselor that's available if needed, and my service dog to protect me at night. So everything's going well. I have a new job, which I really love.
Excellent.
And actually, the biggest weight from the shoulders is when I retired. I knew I wouldn't have to deal with that type of incident any longer. So I think that helped with the healing as well.
What about family and other peers, and is there other support groups that we need to be made aware of?
My family was fantastic. Obviously, when the alcohol abuse became severe, it put a huge strain on our marriage, but we worked through it, and I haven't had a bit of alcohol since June of last year. So,
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. And that aids in the healing as well, of course.
Right.
Yes. But as far as support groups, when the initial incident occurred, the Maryland State Police agency doctor put me in touch with a psychologist in the Baltimore region. But before that, he also found a local psychiatrist so I could go to for immediate help. So as far as the Maryland State Police is concerned, they were, I think it was still new to them as well, but extremely helpful and supportive throughout the whole process. I can't say a bad thing about the agency, how they handled it. So
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Because it's, when we are brought forth into something that's unknown, it's good to know that they stepped up and went to bat for you and helped you.
absolutely, yes.
So what would you tell someone who thinks they may be experiencing PTSD, but they're hesitant to seek help?
Get help. You can go to a psychiatrist anonymously through your insurance company if you need to. You have to talk about it. Holding it inside is not going to make you any better. It makes things worse. It's going to lead to other problems such as alcohol or drugs or whatever you may find to help relieve your pain. It gets bad. I myself was suicidal at one point. So please, before it gets to that level, talk to someone and get some help.
Absolutely. That's a definite point to take home.
Yes.
So you would definitely say that your quality of life has changed for the better since addressing this.
Absolutely, yes. No question about that.
What can the agency do proactively to help staff with this type of experience?
I know in a large critical incident, they have the critical incident debriefing team. I think that needs to be more anonymous. So, and not in a group setting.
Right.
So if someone needs help, they're not having everybody watch them go over and receive or talk to someone. I think it needs to be more anonymous, and I think more people would take a good use of it if it's kept anonymous.
Yeah, and I can say personally that I was in one of those group experiences, and of course you single out the one person that does speak up, and
Absolutely.
everyone snickers and looks around, and
Absolutely.
and it's like, what's wrong with them? But now I see that as it's actually might be considered bullying.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm not proud of that incident, but
Yep.
I'm definitely going to change my attitude as well.
So, like I said, I think more people would take advantage of that if it was anonymous. Maybe contact each person separately after the incident to see if there's any issues or if they need to speak to someone.
Okay. So what could the agency do better once someone is exhibiting symptoms or diagnosed with PTSD?
As I said before, I really have no complaints with how the agency handled it. Both the Maryland State Police and the State Fire Marshal's office, very supportive. Luckily, I was close enough to retirement where they could put me in an administrative position for the last few months to finish out my time.
Right.
So I was able to finish with my full 25 years with no lasting effects. So
maybe some potential training or something
Absolutely.
else, get
Yep.
more involved in this, because it is a problem and it does affect us mentally, and
correct.
it needs to be addressed appropriately.
There's plenty of people out there, I'm sure, that are struggling with it. I've never been shy about my incident. I've talked about it on social media and everything, and the amount of people that have reached out to me in secret stating that they were having the same symptoms was overwhelming. And the problem is you can't make everyone go seek help as much as you'd like to.
Right.
And these are people you worked your whole career with. And, confidentiality, I can't say anything about it. All I can do is encourage them to seek help and then hope that they do.
Outstanding. I'm glad you're there for them.
Yes.
So is there anything else you would like to add?
I would love to see more of an understanding with the coworkers and general everyday staff. You have no idea how bad someone is suffering and hurting at home, and what horrible thoughts may be going through their head. So just be a little more understanding. You don't have to like the situation. You don't have to, I'm not trying to be a woe is me, hug me, that type of thing. Just be understanding and know that someone could be very well suffering at home. So,
And at some point in time, they themselves could be affected.
absolutely.
So it's better to understand it and empathize with someone
Yes.
than it is to
Talk to someone.
Right.
If you're having problems, talk to someone.
Well, I want you to know that I never knew this until these moments. But you always have me to call on as well.
Thank you.
So, John, you talking about some of the symptoms. Could you elaborate on some of the symptoms that you experienced?
So after leaving the garage fire, like I said, I was overcome with emotions, and it was just a sudden outburst of crying. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And I couldn't control it. And obviously it's not safe to drive under those conditions, so that's when I pulled over. There was some nausea at the time, and I really didn't know what was going on. Like I said, I got myself together and went home. I slept for a while, and woke up again, still nauseous. The emotions kicked in almost immediately upon waking up with the crying again. Went in to the bathroom and just laid on the bathroom floor and began actually vomiting. And that's pretty much when my wife came in and found me. So,
And until you actually sought help, even at this point, you didn't know what was going on.
I had no idea, no. I've never had this type of reaction to anything before. I did not like fatal fire. I did not like investigating fatal fires just because of what it is.
Right.
But I've never had a reaction like this before. I've been able to do my job, with no problem.
So, the onset of this, beyond those moments, how did it transpire after that? Because now your wife comes in, she finds you, talk to the supervisor, and now as a process is about ready to begin, and you're still not even sure what it's about.
Right. I know I was having nightmares. I was waking my wife up screaming at night, yelling in my sleep. Sleep pretty much became non-existent for me. It's always exhausted because you just couldn't sleep at night. And it just went downhill from there. And went to the psychologist that the Maryland State Police doctor set up for me. Got some medication to help with the nightmares and with the anxiety from the PTSD. And that's when I was diagnosed with acute PTSD, acute being sudden onset PTSD.
Okay.
And received the medication there, started sleeping a little bit better, then started mixing that with alcohol to try to ease some of the pain, and it just got worse from there.
So someone from the outside looking in, they might think of anxiety versus actual PTSD.
Yes.
What would you say would be the difference?
I think they're very similar. I would think the difference is it's linked directly to an event. So I know anxiety can be linked to an event, but it tends to, once you're out of that element, it tends to go away. Whereas PTSD, it's constantly on your mind and constantly in your environment. So
it's just ongoing.
It's ongoing, yes. Yep. And I received the treatment from the Maryland State Police and was cleared to return back to work, which I did. I returned back to work investigating fires again, and it was a short time later, got dispatched to another fatal fire with mother and child were trapped inside the dwelling and lost their lives. To the agency's credit, they did not make me process the bodies. They gave me what I call busy work on the scene to do, but you're still in that element. You're still involved, and that just brought everything back like an avalanche. Just came straight back again. The nightmares returned, and it just went downhill again from there.
So getting help was definitely good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Help you crest through that.
And I think my breakdown on the second time was I really didn't know how to ask for help again with all the elements that were going on. So I think maybe educating the employee a little bit better on what to do should they have symptoms could be beneficial to everyone, the employee and the agency as well. May be able to stop these symptoms before they get too severe.
And this goes beyond as an investigator. This affects everyone in public safety.
Absolutely.
Whether they're police, they're fire.
The suicide rate right now in police, fire, and EMS is phenomenal. It's become epidemic almost. And a lot of mine I found started from my volunteer firefighter career. It's 26 years of volunteer. Currently a life member with my volunteer fire department. The best way I could describe it is like my psychologist described it. Your mind's kind of like a photo album. You have photo albums for different events in your life. You have a photo album for traumatic events. And when your photo album's full, it's full. And that made more sense to me than anything he said during the treatment. So,
and we don't have the convenience of just doing an upgrade and putting another computer chip in.
Exactly. Yes.
Can't delete the file either.
So, my body knew it was done with the death and blood and guts and destruction, and I choose not to put myself in that environment. I'm still involved with the volunteer fire department slightly, but I don't choose to put myself in that environment where I could see the the injuries and the death anymore.
So what can coworkers do, or even in the volunteer service, what can they do to?
We're a team. Even in bad times, we need to stay a team. I think reach out to your coworker, just how you doing? Need anything? I think that would mean a lot. I did not get that from my team, and I think that goes back to, they're probably confused with the whole situation as well. They don't know how to approach somebody that's going through this. So I understand it. I understand there's some tension, there's some animosity. There's nothing I could do about it. I had to get treatment, and that's what I did. So have to look out for me first, unfortunately. Right. I learned that through my treatment. Try to stop putting everybody ahead and deal with me first. So.
And just as the psychiatrist explained, everyone's different. That means we also have different size files that can have different capacities. Absolutely. As to what we can handle.
You never know what your trigger event's going to be. Right. And I've heard that numerous times throughout different treatments. You never know what your trigger event's going to be. So.
And during any of these treatments, were any of those at all group at all, or was it always just one-on-one?
It's one-on-one. Oh. They don't want a group situation for PTSD because people tend not to open up when it's in a group setting, which is just like the critical incident stress debriefing teams. That's a group setting. You're going to have a lot of people that's going to shut down and not take advantage of that just for the fear and embarrassment.
So, John, we've covered a lot of information today.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to bring it down to more of a summary of all the experiences. What should be a trigger to anyone either experiencing it or someone on the outside looking at someone? What should be a trigger for them to help them get that help they need?
Well, I think if you think about one specific incident or numerous incidents over and over and over again, such as driving through an area where a bad incident occurred, if it triggers emotions, or such as I was watching television with my wife, and a television commercial came on that had a fire scene on it, and I broke down with uncontrolled emotions again. Wow. Just unexpectedly. So if you're having that type of reaction or thinking about an event that happened years ago and it comes back over and over again, talk to someone. You have to talk to someone. That is not normal. And I learned through my therapy that is not normal to continuously bring that event up in your mind. So talk to someone. Don't be embarrassed. Get the help. Take care of yourself.
And for someone that is on the outside looking at that individual, when should they feel compelled to do something about it?
It kind of depends on the relationship you have with that person, but I think anyone that notices a problem can bring it to their attention. You might have to do it diplomatically, depending on your relationship with that person. But in the case of my wife, it was something's not right. What's your supervisor's phone number? So actually, she went and got my phone and got his phone number. So, yeah, just talk to someone. And I think the stigma is releasing some in the world over PTSD. There's a little bit more understanding about it, and that it is a severe condition. So I hope that continues, and with training like this, hopefully we can bring it to the forefront and have a much better awareness about it. Sorry.
And what people usually associate PTSD with is veterans that are returning
Correct.
from their service, and it goes well beyond that. It's
Yes.
It's anyone that has any type of trauma in their life,
Any
especially if it's
any
repetitive.
traumatic event, yes. And volunteer fire or firefighting service, EMS, police, we're ordinary people doing extraordinary jobs, and we see things that most humans don't have to deal with. So,
or don't want to deal
or
with.
don't want to deal with. Correct. So, it's there's nothing to be ashamed of to talk to someone and get help. I'm so glad I did. I'm better now than I have been in years. So,
I'm glad you did, John.
thank you very much.
We've had a great afternoon speaking with John Tennyson here, talking about the seriousness of PTSD. We'd like to thank you for viewing this, and remember, it's okay to get help.
Thank you.